That's the back side of Swallow Cliff Stairs. That's where usually you get to the top and you go back down. But the cool thing about being, and trails continue on that way, but the cool thing about being a hiker is I can train with the runners, but I can go off-road. I'm sure that a lot of the runners have expensive shoes and they probably will do fine in the wet, but I can just go off-trail anytime I want. And that's what's cool about not having any restrictions. If I identify myself as a runner, then I'll be obliged to do what most runners do. But if I identify myself as a hiker, I think it gives more potential. Now, I have run in boots before, but just to be pragmatic, I'm not talking about shoe wear. I'm talking about being flexible with life challenges. So welcome to my Quantum Shift episode 10. And you know, first let me explain this, because this all started with kind of filming my journey in finding my new self. And this is not midlife crisis, this is just my identity coming to a head. I've always identified myself as a physician. I've taken the easy way out by just saying I have to do what all physicians do, and that would be work in a clinic, see sick people, and then maybe retire. I refuse to do that. In fact, I want to do more, and I think that I have the opportunity to do more. See, I'm going off trail again. Could have gone along that side, but this is what's calling me. So my identity is that of a doctor, and I think I am at the point where I'm pretty good as a doctor. At least I'm very confident in making the decisions and coming up with life plans as a life coach. But I think there's I've battled with this idea that insurance is holding me back, and it's actually me holding me back. At least at this point in time. I haven't taken my 2-week sabbatical yet, but I'm coming to the conclusion that I have a lot to offer, and if I do stay, I can't stay where I am now because it's just limiting me, and I keep on fighting back, but I'm realizing that it shouldn't be a fight, because I know what I have to do and I know how to do it. I just have to forgive myself from making this restriction and not seeing the true way out. Maybe it's because I'm lazy, or I allowed laziness to get in the way, and I had a whole bunch of excuses, but I'm not going to embrace that anymore. I think that there's other things that have to be given to the community. There's a whole bunch of other doctors that'll do that. I think that the system now takes care of people, but the system does not allow people to become who they fully are supposed to become. Whether it's doctors to become great healers, and there's some great doctors, there are some greater healers that aren't doctors, or whether it's patients to not be patients anymore. I think if you rely on, hear my words, because I know a lot of you also have the same limitations in self-doubt. It's not a matter of laziness, it's just, it's hard. But just because you have medical insurance doesn't mean you have to follow the rules of medical insurance. Because medical insurance is there, it's a business, and it's not there to, the ultimate goal for medical insurance is for the corporation to be successful. And the only way they can be successful is by hauling in a lot of lives and not paying so much for those lives. So, I mean, it's a business. I'm not in business, but I assume if you get a bunch of people giving you money, you try not to spend that money. So whether you believe in that conspiracy theory or not of the medical businesses perpetuating sickness, it's up to you. I don't think that's true. I think the medical industry is there for a reason, and it's to maintain your sickness or your disease, so that at least you don't get any worse. But healing up is not part of the medical dialogue. It's not in the language. I think temporarily with colds, coughs, and flu-like symptoms, it's fine. To stop the coronavirus from spreading, that's fine. But to make people do and become the best they can be, you really have to step outside that, and that's what I'm doing now. So I think that there's other things that define my identity, and I have not come to the conclusion, but I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to let the standard doctor title define my identity, because it's very restrictive, and I think I have a lot more to offer, and maybe other doctors do too, and maybe they haven't got to that point. Maybe they also choose to lock themselves into that identity, and that's fine. There's room in this world for a whole different type of roles, but if I have more to offer, which I do, I'm going to accelerate it. So I'm getting the clearer picture now, and I think it requires me to fine-tune this. I'll do that in time, but I think that being forced to see this other direction will also make it easy for me to commit. So the idea would be, if I can find a better way to do it, I think that we can all get a little bit more success together. But it's obviously going to take a little bit of practice and some trial and error. So just like walking over this ice path, has to be, you have to take one step at a time. And I think that if you just don't pay attention, you'll slip. Now I'm watching my footing here while I'm talking, and this is my goal as a hiking instructor or a hiking guide, is to make sure I don't face plant, but it's also to make sure the safety of others is intact, while the enjoyment, that's the ultimate goal for this thing, the enjoyment is there. So I believe that I'm hitting stride. So as I was alluding to, my book, Running Behind, encompasses that vision that I had, I still have now, of when Coach, I think it was Coach Crosby in Bishop Eustace High School. Coach Crosby said he needed me to fill in for that 400 man, or the leg of the 400 relay, and there's nobody else around, and I hated the 400, but I'm going to tell the story in my book. So due out this year, I think that the idea with finding my path stems off of the same thing. Running behind, it's a play on words. Certainly it's how I made it through that nasty 400-meter run, and it's also how I always feel the clinic gets me. I'm always running behind. But I think there's something good about running behind, because number one, the person in front of you, physically in running, person in front of you is cutting the wind, just like a V shape of ducks flying overhead. The lead duck is always taking the resistance, and the other ducks behind him, especially the guy at the back, is taking a break. He's just gliding. It's called drafting. You see it in NASCAR and planes too. So running behind has a benefit. It's less effort. Number two, it also has a benefit. It's easy, because if you're running behind someone like an Indian file, you don't even have to worry about speed of the group, the tempo of the group. If there's a hill coming up, you just follow the feet of the guy in front of you. So it's effortless. You just float. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm floating. The cool part about running is you get to such a speed, especially on the back stretch of a quarter mile, or a 400-meter run. You get to the back stretch, and if you're good and you're cardiovascularly fit, you'll just float. Now, if you're out of shape, not even going to make it to the back straightaway. But this is where I feel I'm at right this point. I've had some battles. I've gone through acupuncture. I have an acupuncture coach. I have a psychologist. I have a spiritual healer coach that's also guiding me. I have a couple coaches. And what saved me in 2005, 2007, when I left medicine, after I was shunned by Central DuPage Hospital, was my patients that called me. And I really appreciate my warriors that are out there that brought me back from what I wasn't identifying as myself. I mean, I identified myself as a doctor. I bought into that from the CEO that said, well, you're average. And I thought I was better than average. But he broke my spirit. And I'm putting the blame on him when I should be blaming me, because I believed in that crap. And it's not going to happen again. I'm at the same crossroads. And actually, it's the same argument. Not billing enough. Not getting enough out of what the insurance pays, because I'm not doing the standard as a family practice doctor. But I am far better. I shouldn't say better. I am far more advanced trained than a family practice doctor, because I chose to do that to myself, make myself a better person, and then it rubbed off because of the way it made me feel. I now do that life coaching for other people. I had to have Deepak Chopra, David Simon, Andy Weil, Tiarona Lodog, Herb Benson all teach me a different way. And it was for my own healing, but I'm healed. And I'm getting better every time. Every encounter that I have with a patient, I know you guys are in there with me, so you can get my ideas and have me envision a plan for it. But you know what? I have to be selfish. It's also helping me. And I have to tell you, Mike, who came to me because of what sounded was burnout, has started, this is all positive, Mike, so if you're watching, started me on this quest for finding a better way. I think there's always going to be a better way. I think healers do get burned out, but that's the beauty. When we feel that, it's time to change and modify our identity. So I will do that as a life coach for anybody that walks through and asks me for help. So I'm going to change around the my quantum shift a little bit, because I'm seeing the other side. I got to the back stretch of the 400 and I'm coasting, but I see the next curve coming up, and this is where I accelerate. So if you can't feel the energy in my voice, the cool thing about a 400-meter dash is once around a track, like a high school or college track, cool thing about the track is that the start is awesome. You have blocks. You can propel that force off the blocks, and you can dig into the ground, the track with your spikes. Power. And then there's a little bit of a fade. The curve is cool too, though, because you can lean into the curve and use gravity and slingshot off the curve. The back stretch could be threatening. I used to think it was always threatening, but now I think it's a great time to float. The last curve, second curve, you can muster up, just continue the float, start to build up acceleration. But the last 100 yards is going to be awesome. Now, I'm not going to finish with 100 yards. At that point in time, that'll be my Everest. Then I'll see what calls me at that point in time and what my identity will be at age 60. But this is, I'm really feeling confident, so I want to thank everybody who was supporting me and sending prayers out for healing. It definitely helped. My coaches, I have nothing more than appreciation, and I really am so honored that you're walking beside me. And for my patients, I have to say thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to do what I love to do and refine what I'm supposed to do. So I have the highest honor for all of you that have trusted me with your care and continue to support me through this journey. Whether I am your whether I physically see you in the clinic anymore, as I propel myself into 2020. I might not. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up, but I'm really confident, and I'll always be there for you one way or another. And maybe that'll be my next project, is to make this education process an accessory to your regular medical insurance doc. So you're never alone. There's always a way out. Even if it's cancer and an end-stage diagnosis, trust me, I've had a few patients who have been able to come back. So the most important thing is to not suffer. So if you are suffering, seek out help. If you're in other parts of the world, get me on my website. I'll hopefully be able to give you some guidance, or find a community where you can also excel. Otherwise, thank you for watching me on this journey, and be prepared. This is going to be really cool. We're going downhill again, and this is arms up and happy, and it'll be kind of cool to see what the next bump will be. But thank you for watching up to this point and your support. Thumbs up if you like this, and share it if you know anybody else is going through a lot of change in life. Thanks.